My name is Eden Redmond. I'm a fundraiser at the Tacoma Art Museum. Thank you for joining us and helping us take our union drive public as TAM Workers United. As we begin, I'm going to borrow some language from our neighbors at UW Tacoma to acknowledge that we are standing on the land of the Coast Salish, specifically the Puyallup people. As people on these occupied territories, we have a responsibility to acknowledge the land and the ancestors who have cared for this land since time immemorial. We also have the responsibility to acknowledge the histories of dispossession and forced removal that have allowed for the growth and survival of this nation and this institution. In light of this history, let us take active efforts to partner with our Indigenous communities and seek justice as we continue our work together. Tacoma Art Museum has served the South Sound for 87 years. TAM tells unique stories of the Northwest from diverse Northwestern perspectives. In recent years, TAM has welcomed 40 to 60,000 visitors and contributed $5 million in economic impact each year. The museum bridges arts education opportunity gaps for almost 5,000 school children each year, and most of the museum's programming for youth and for adults is available for reduced and free prices. All this work has been accomplished thanks to staff members who dedicate years of their lives to the museum. Staff who devote their ideas, relationships, and labor to Tacoma's cultural stewardship. TAM Workers United is here today because we want to keep contributing to this museum and to Tacoma, but we need to do it differently. If the museum wants to thrive for 87 more years, it must invest in a culture of transparency and sustainability. It must invest in its workers. TAM workers are undervalued, underpaid, and unheard. Frontline staff have their hours capped, too little to earn health care, yet too many to get additional work. Wages are far below livable and below industry standards. Physical and personal safety are not prioritized. Resources for grievances and advancements are available only if you can find them, invent them, or befriend the right people. Without clear access to resources, those already underserved by society remain underserved in their workplace. A culture of retaliation has made it nearly impossible for both staff and our leaders to advocate for their needs and the needs of community partners. We believe this culture can be changed with a union. These conditions led us to turn to one another for solidarity and begin work on what is now TAM Workers United. For the past 6 months, we have shared stories, shaped goals, designed strategies as a collective. In 6 months, we have built tremendous trust and power together. We have already seen that a new way, a collective way of doing things is possible. Our colleagues at Washington Federation of State Employees have helped us find our collective power. Our sincerest thanks to them, especially to our collaborators Ty Moore, A.L. Rickard, and Patrick Chagru. We are grateful for their support, and we are excited to join our siblings at WFSE AFSCME Council 28. I would like to welcome and introduce two of my colleagues who will be sharing their motivations for joining TAM Workers United. My friend Carrie Morton, who works in the Visitor Services Department, front of house, and my friend Stephen Rue, who works as a preparator installing all these amazing exhibitions. Welcome, Carrie and Steve.
Hi, my name is Carrie. I've worked at the Tacoma Art Museum for about a year as a visitor services rep. Visitor services reps are frontline workers that work with guests and monitor the art. I love working at TAM, and I love working with our team and our community. I left a higher paying job to come work at TAM because I wanted a job that was more fulfilling. Visitor services reps start at $15 an hour, just a little over minimum wage. I enjoy working at Tacoma Art Museum, but I also deserve to make a living wage. As gas, food, and everything has become more expensive, low wages have really taken their toll. Rent in Tacoma has risen 22% on average last year. In July, we received a cost of living increase of just 30 cents, which did little to help. It takes nearly an hour worth of work to just pay for parking here, which is $12.50 a day. I work a second job and still really struggle to make ends meet. The museum has also capped the hours we can work to 29 hours a week so that they can avoid paying for health benefits. When we asked for higher pay, more hours, we were told that the museum couldn't afford to do either. In fact, as members of the visitor service teams have left to seek out higher wages or benefits, the leadership of the museum has eliminated those positions, meaning that we are extremely understaffed. If one person gets sick or cannot come in, it becomes much more difficult to run the building. We end up watching larger portions of the museum, having fewer people at the desk to help guests, and sometimes we have to close the museum store. Without having enough staff, we are forced to do more and more without livable wages or health insurance. Over the last year, we have worked to advocate for ourselves. However, leadership has been resistant to our efforts. They have done little to transparently address these concerns. That is why we began to talk amongst ourselves and found many of us throughout the building were frustrated with our needs and concerns being disregarded for so long. A stronger and healthier TAM is a TAM where we have a voice, where our concerns are addressed, and where we are paid fairly. I am very excited to work with my colleagues in solidarity to create systemic change that ensures that workers at TAM are paid and treated fairly. I support the union because overall I believe that our union is an important step in sustaining and strengthening the Tacoma Art Museum.
All right. My name is Stephen Rue, and I am the lead preparator here at TAM, a part of the curatorial team. I came to the museum 3 years ago, although I was contracted occasionally as an art installer for several years before. So I knew about the stretch of dysfunction that TAM had experienced from previous administrations. But I was excited that the museum seemed to be starting to heal and grow as new leadership had recently come in. Unfortunately, it has become clear that that same dysfunction still exists. I've seen my colleagues exit the museum in a never-ending trickle, with their vacancies never filled, with some of our most vulnerable and diverse staff being the most affected. When the museum opened its doors again after the pandemic slowed, those vacancies have taken an even greater toll on staff morale, as duties have been distributed amongst an already threadbare workforce, all without acknowledgement or compensation. As departments dwindle or are practically eliminated altogether, it is shocking to learn of one financial blunder on top of another. And it is especially frustrating since some of these dubious decisions could have been avoided altogether had we simply been informed and given the respect to offer solutions. The workers at TAM need to have a voice in the direction this museum takes as we look to hire a new executive director. We are truly at a crossroads, and to decide on the best path forward, we must learn to avoid the pitfalls of the road we were just on. We need major structural change at TAM, and now is the perfect time to form this union. We are a wall-to-wall union. We cross nearly all departments and currently have over 80% support from eligible staff. That's an incredible super majority, and this message cannot be clearer. We are united and steadfast in our goals. We have not been heard, and it is time we gain a voice at the table. Heck yeah. I'd like to read TAM's mission statement. Tacoma Art Museum transforms our communities. Tacoma Art Museum transforms our communities by sharing art that inspires broader perspectives and cultivates a compassionate future. We transform our community. TAM Workers United could not agree with this more. We want to develop a healthy and thriving art district here in Tacoma. We want TAM to prosper and to fulfill its mission to our community. But we want the leadership of TAM to know that if we say we value the public that walks through our front doors every day, we need to recognize the value of the people that open those doors to them every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Eden, Stephen, and Carrie for your powerful words on why the workers at TAM can't afford to wait any longer for union representation. I'm A.L. Ricard, an organizer with the Washington Federation of State Employees, and an honor to be working alongside y'all. Workers at TAM are unionizing with WFSE Council 28, and upon certification will be the first wall-to-wall union at an art museum in the state of Washington. Woo! They are unionizing alongside thousands of cultural workers across the country as part of ASME's Cultural Workers United Network, which includes museum workers most recently winning unions and fair contracts down in LA, and workers who went on strike in Philadelphia and have just ratified a fair contract. ASME is the union for cultural workers, representing more cultural workers than any other union, including more than 10,000 museum workers at over 100 cultural institutions in the public and private sector, and more than 25,000 library workers at 275 public and private libraries, representing more than 35,000 cultural workers across the country. Cultural workers are truly stronger together when they unite with their colleagues to form unions and do so across the country. Today here at TAM, workers also have the solidarity of our union and of the Washington State and Pierce County Central Labor Councils, and the leaders of the Pierce County Central Labor Council and WFSE are here today to voice their solidarity with TAM Workers United and to join the workers' call to the Board of Trustees and museum leadership for voluntary recognition. April Sims, the newly elected president of the Washington State Labor Council, was also planning to join today to voice the support of the council, but needed to attend another urgent matter and sends her regrets. So first, I'd like to introduce Mike Yastrzemski, president of the Washington Federation of State Employees. Mike has been our union's elected leader since 2018 and has a long history of fighting for the rights of working people in Washington State, beginning as a member of WFSE Local 793 in 2013 at Western State Hospital. Mike.
Thank you for that. Thank you again for inviting me to be a part of this event. Being able to include all of you into our AFSCME family as it continues to grow among the cultural workers group, it's really exciting. It's really exciting, again, as said, to be the first one in the state of Washington. Even, everybody's talking about how beautiful the weather is today. The skies are smiling upon us. Even, the universe wants this to go well. So, that said, though, why are we here, right? Why do you see these folks joining a union? Why do you see folks across, the country joining their unions, because management needs to understand that in order for something to work, you need to talk to the workers. The workers are who keeps things running, who keeps society running, who keeps that museum open and running, and as the cultural jewel of Tacoma that it is because of these people. Because of these people standing behind me right here. Without them, you wouldn't have this museum. You wouldn't have, again, the prestige that it brings to this area. And so how do you respect that, right? Is you listen to the boots on the ground. You make sure that the workers have a voice. How do you have a voice? You join your union, which again, a super majority folks of people agreed to do that. I mean, that's huge, right? And talking about the voice, what are the things that are so important in that voice? Really, it's kind of some main points, right? You're talking about staff reductions. Folks are working, I heard some folks talking about how they're having to, cover extra shifts, they're having to work extra jobs just to make ends meet. That is unacceptable. When you have an institution like this that could afford to pay their people a living wage, but instead mismanage their finances to the point that it is in a crisis mode right now. Again, not because of them, because of management. And if management maybe had listened to the folks on the ground, we might not be there right now. So we're calling on the new-ish interim management of this museum to voluntarily recognize this union and to commit to no intimidation, coercion, or any form of anti-union actions. And I could promise you one thing, if we get one whiff that it's happening, you'll see all of us times 1,000 out here making our voices known. We will stand with you. Welcome again to the family. An injury to one is an injury to all. You are now part of us, and I couldn't be happier to have you in our union family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. The full support of WFSE is behind TAM Workers United and cultural workers seeking to unionize across the state, and solidarity is what makes us strong. Next, I'd like to introduce Patty Rose, the Secretary-Treasurer of the Pierce County Central Labor Council. A lifelong Tacoma resident, Patty has been fighting for the rights of working people in Pierce County and the state for over 4 decades, and is a leader at the council for over 20 years. Patty.
Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing me to join you today in this very great occasion. I am the Secretary-Treasurer of the Pierce County Central Labor Council. Our organization is 132 years old, and we've always been the place where workers come to share their victories or ask for support when they're in a struggle. We are very pleased to have welcomed Eden and Ty at our delegate meeting last Wednesday when we heard a little bit about your story. We know that you are part of a growing group of workers all across the country who are standing up for their rights and voting for and choosing union representation. And maybe I'm your good luck charm. I sure hope so. I was back in Philadelphia a couple months ago and joined the museum workers there on the steps of the museum in support of their struggle. And now we've just learned that they did get and ratify their contract, getting all 5 of their demands that they wanted. But in the event I'm not the lucky charm, I'm pretty well connected, and I actually know a couple people who are on the board of the Tacoma Art Museum. And you better believe, now that the campaign is public, they will be getting a call from me to remind them that when they've come for our support, we've given it. And now we're coming for theirs, and they better give it to us too. You know, I looked at the website of the Tacoma Visitor Center this morning, and they are proud to announce that they want visitors to come to Tacoma, visit the vibrant urban core, which includes world-class museums, and right there on their website is the Tacoma Art Museum. They talk about TAM being the anchor organization for the city's downtown and a gathering place for connecting people through art. What they don't say on that website is how TAM pays their workers low wages and hours are kept just below the threshold to get benefits. How there's a lack of training for safety. How there have been significant layoffs, partly due to the pandemic, but yet the existing staff is being required to pick up the workload without additional compensation, without safety training, and without adequate resources. And how workers fear retaliation if they mention the mismanagement and try to make things better at this great gem of a museum here in Tacoma. Boy, it sure sounds like you guys need a union. The Pierce County Central Labor Council has over 90 affiliates. And as I mentioned, we were formed 132 years ago. And you know why? We did so that the bigger, stronger organizations could help the smaller unions organize. Since you work for a museum, you're probably interested in history, and I'll tell you that the Longshore was one of those founding 8 unions, and who were they trying to help organize? The people who shoed horses, the farriers, very small union. They were seeking representation. They weren't big enough or strong enough on their own. So the collective labor community came together and made sure those workers got dignity on their job and fair wages for a fair day's pay. The Labor Council is committed to doing that for you. We will call on the TAM board to voluntarily recognize you. Whatever it takes, we'll stand with you. You deserve a right to a safe workplace that pays dignified wages and a voice on the job. Your fight is our fight. Stay strong and solidarity forever.
Thank you, Patty. The support of the Pierce County Central Labor Council to back workers here at the Tacoma Art Museum is invaluable. When working people come together, we have the power to transform jobs and lives. Finally, I'd like to introduce Kurt Spiegel, the Executive Director of the Washington Federation of State Employees. After over a decade of work with WFSE, Kurt was selected to be WFSE's Interim Executive Director by our Executive Board earlier this year and has a long history of labor activism with WFSE. Since working for the Department of Fish and Wildlife in 1998 and becoming a shop steward, Kurt went on to join WFSE staff after many years of being a member leader on the bargaining team and president of WFSE Local 2753. Kurt.
Okay, I'm going to keep it brief, I promise. What a great day, downtown Tacoma. This is beautiful. Awesome to see you all here. Again, my name is Kurt Spiegel. I am currently the Interim Executive Director for the Federation AFSCME Council 28. I want you to know first off that I've been where you've been. I was a rank and file member with no voice, no power, and no real hope for change until WFSE came along and changed all that and, pretty much changed my entire future. But I wanted to not only introduce myself, but I also wanted you to know that this union has got your back. Mike, Ashley, myself are all here representing 47,000 members statewide that got your back, all right? And we are standing beside you in this effort. We are committed to working with you to achieve better wages, safer working conditions, and having a real voice in your work. So together, we will create a more equitable and sustainable future for you and the Tacoma Art Museum. Thank you.